through dark skies to environmentally responsible outdoor lighting. That's pretty basic. There are 5 different designations that an entity can obtain: parks, reserves, sanctuaries, developments of distinction, and communities, which is obviously the one that we would fall into. There are about 60 designated of those 5 types throughout the world, and only 15 communities, 2 of which are in Texas. One is in Dripping Springs, and the other one is in Horseshoe Bay. So what is a dark sky community? It's a town or a city or a municipality that's shown dedication to preservation of the night sky through implementing and enforcement of quality lighting codes, dark sky education, citizen support, and again, I mentioned there are currently about, that says 5, it's a mistype, should be about 85. So what is their philosophy? And I think it really dovetails really well, I think, into what our community is primarily about. But it's the elimination of light pollution, which includes glare, sky glow, light trespass, and then clutter, which is simply a lot of lights that really don't do a whole lot. Lighting should be used to minimize harmful effects to light pollution. These are really very simple, but to the point. Only be on when needed, only light the area that needs to be lit, be no brighter than necessary, minimize light emissions, and be shielded, meaning pointing downward as opposed to up in the sky. So let's take a look at our current street light infrastructure. These globes, as I call them, are in the shores. There's 10 of them. This one happens to be, I think, at the intersection of Melody and Stowe. And it's in the bar ditch, as they all are. Okay. And then in the village, we have bar lights. And they light up generally the world when they're working. And I know Linda and others have been working to try to get a lot of them repaired. I think most of them are, except for a few, and we're trying to run those down. This one happens to be at Hillside and Peninsula. Okay, so let's look at these lights in the dark. That probably doesn't meet any dark sky standard. First, it's glare, it's
dark underneath the light itself.
Yeah, and it's lighting up everybody, and it does collect a lot of bugs. So let's look at the barn light. I'd hate to, I don't know who lives there, but my Lord, I'd hate to have that in my front yard. Okay, so requirements. There's 5 pages of requirements here. I don't want to go through all of them, but just to say that it's not something you can just sign up for and become designated. It takes a lot of work. For example, there needs to be an outdoor lighting ordinance, which doesn't exist today. There are limits on kelvins. Anyone know what a kelvin is? Okay, well, I don't either, so that's all right. There is restrictions on the amount of unshielded lighting, limits on lumens per acre. On the next page, the community has to show a commitment to quality lighting by putting together a plan. This says in no more than 5 years. Generally, it takes a year to 2 years to get the designation because of all the requirements involved. There also has to be broad support from the community organizations such as CoServe, Little Elm ISD, the local DA chapter, which I mentioned is in Dripping Springs, lighting retailers such as Home Depot, and then there potentially could be others.
And you've already met with CoServe a couple times, right?
Yeah, yes we have, and they're very positive in terms of working with us, and so I think they're going to be a real support. So let me see if there's anything else here in terms of, we have to have at least a minimum of 10 projects built under the lighting code that needs to be written and approved. be, well, that's not good there. So, anyway, so the point in sharing all these requirements is that it does require a lot of work. And one person can't do it all. So, next steps here is, I know Mark had included a request for anyone interested in participating in this effort in the mayor's letter last month, and I included my email address, I believe, and perhaps even a phone number. A lot of people probably didn't read that because I didn't receive any calls. So I'm putting out a request for anyone that's interested in helping it. It can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of work to do, I'll be very honest with you. And again, it's going to take a few people to get it all done. I have been able to establish contact with the Texas chapter as well as the international chapter. They're very helpful and will be a great resource in helping us meet all those requirements we briefly talked about before. I have done a complete inventory already of the street lights, and I can guarantee you none of them meet. But we need to, there's efforts underway to try to identify whether we can modify those lights. CoServe is looking at what potentially they may be able to do for the 22 barn lights that are in the village, all the way down High Ridge as well. So that's information that will come at some point in the near term, but they are already working on it. At some point, meetings need to be set up with Little Elm ISD or North Texas or Texas Women's University. I'm sure they've got astrology clubs. High school probably has astrology types of clubs that we could do some coordination and set up some type of activity out here. I'm sorry. And then,
Is that your warning notice to stop talking?
I think it is. So the last thing is
Everybody thinks
to
that.
initiate, make review, and make changes to the existing lighting ordinance. And again, there is no outdoor lighting ordinance. So I hope that
We're not going to get rid of lights, you're just going to tame them down.
we're going to, yes, no, we're not getting rid of lights. Although I will share with you, Horseshoe Bay has no street lights. But we've talked about that.
We got thieves around here, you know, break-ins and stuff like that, we need a little bit of light.
Yeah, yes.
They just have to comply.
So we're just modifying our light structure to where it doesn't,
They point it down.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you know, one of the nice things, so here's where this is, kind of the starting point of this was, the starting point of this was a couple months ago, Clint and I were talking about what we can start before the concrete roads come in. Way out there, is there anything we need to start thinking about way in advance? And one of the things we started thinking about, because once the concrete roads are in and the shores, you're not going to decide to take out the lights and replace them and trench up the street again. So we started thinking way out there, like maybe the fire hydrants and the water lines over here, we put in before the concrete roads. So if we're going to replace those lights, or if there's some modification of lights in the shores, do it when we can trench across the street. We don't have to care about it because it's going to be ripped up and turned into concrete. So we started thinking out there, and then that conversation with me and Clint turned into me thinking a little bit, well, maybe, you know, we should maybe think about the dark sky stuff, because what makes us unique, and people don't quite follow sometimes, 2/3 of our town isn't here yet. It hasn't been built yet. So if we tell a developer, that's what you got to do, then 2/3 of it's done, because they got to do it. So it's not like, you know, 95% of the town, you're Plano, the damn town's already in, and to try and, you know, get this brilliant idea, you have to spend $1 zillion. For us, if we get ahead of this, if we made all the developers do it, and we do it in the shores, in the area when the concrete roads come in, basically the southern end of town, 80% of the town's already good to go. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if we're going to ever do it, we can do it.
Yeah, I would like us to, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I hear you talking about doing this to the lights and things like that, but what about individual homes? Security lights on your garage or something like that, are these going to fall under ordinance, or are they going to be part of?
We're still educating ourselves on how that's going to work.
There may be some of that. I know, I'm sorry.
Just turn it over.
Will that do it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. The approach that I've been exposed to to date has been regarding existing homes, that those are grandfathered. So this would be, going forward, new development, new homes, or as existing fixtures are changed out. So, but I think the intent would be hopefully at some point in time that there would be a consistent, fairly consistent lighting pattern, certainly from a street.
If nothing else, just peer pressure maybe.
Well,
Your
yeah.
neighbors are doing it,
I-
and so.
So, Johnny, one second, I was just gonna add on that. So lights fall under zoning. So typically the way zoning works is that once you're in your grandfather, unlike building codes, that as you make changes to your house, you have to bring your house up to new codes. So typically the way we've done that through zoning is people that are existing, they're okay. Yours doesn't have that setting. Probably iPhone.
Okay.
But anyhow,
But here in this town, I mean, every time you sell a home, that home has to come up to these inspections,
no,
Safety.
to building codes.
But that's what I'm saying, so
Right.
if grandfather doesn't really count in this town because we make every home that gets sold, even if it's a 50-year-old home,
No,
it's
they
gonna
have
have
to-
to come up to those codes.
No.
To building codes, zoning is a little different, so there are certain things within zoning that you have to bring up, and they could be.
Oh, you're
safe.
saying so the lights are under
Safe.
zoning, not
Now,
building?
see, the problem we have today with our existing lights is that, I mean, basically, they're down High Ridge. And there are only 8 or only 10 of them in the shores, so, I mean, in the shores, I figured there's only one light for like every 800, almost 900 feet of road. So they're just ineffective, although I'm sure there is some deterrence. There's also studies that really question the safety aspect of too much light.
Sandra, do you have a question?
A lot of things we need to
Johnny,
work
cut it
out.
out too, sorry.
Well, you're saying that our lights, because I have outdoor floodlights, and you're saying they're grandfathered in, but then can you pass a law as to when I can turn them on? Because I have my lights on from dusk to dawn.
So really what this whole thing is about is actually looking at the city lights. We're not really talking about any homes or any
Okay.
restrictions. If we were to go to that, as Mark alluded, it would be put on a developer or in the news section, going back and trying to retrofit. So, as Ed pointed out, there's 10 in the shores, so that's kind of an easier model. And we haven't done the roads over there, so it's easier to attack those. The idea, if we're successful, we come back and we get the whole city all consistent, but it's harder to do, it's more expensive, because in the village side, there's about half, up to the shoreline is underground, the rest is above ground, so it becomes quite a challenge. But the first step is to try and figure out and come up with what's the right thing. What do we want as a town? And that's why Ed's looking for help from citizens. He's just not a sole council member on it. But, sorry, Joni.
Well, that was just 3 things I just wanted to ask. First of all, it's basically for aesthetic purposes and forward thinking as far as future development. I understand that part. But is there going to be, and everything, I looked on the website as well, the Dark Skies website as well, and everything is energy efficient from what I understand. Is there going to be a cost to the town as far as if this gets implemented? And is there any type of a rebate back type or incentive type thing that comes back from the state or from this program? Or
Well, I don't know all of the answers to your questions. I will say that it could potentially be some expense to the town. Obviously, we need to identify what that was and then talk about whether we wanted to do it or not. I mean, if we want to, if there is a retrofit capability for the globes and the shores, we can identify the cost of that. We may or may not want to do that. So that we'll just have to see how that works
I
out.
mean, one thing a lot of people don't know is we don't own those poles. CoServe owns them.
Yeah,
They're putting
the
development.
lights, they own the whole.
You give the poles to the power company. You don't give them to the city. They're not our poles. So one of the things that came up when I talked with CoServe was, for instance, if some of these lights are X years old, then they have to be replaced. Well, then they might be able to work with us to now, you're not going to replace an incandescent light in 2017. You're going to put in probably an LED or something. So there's a little bit of replacement, so it's a fuzzy situation, but
In fact, CoServe is already committed to looking at the potential of doing that.
And in the process of doing that, getting control of the colors of the lights, some are orange, some are white, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, some are easier on the eyes than others.
And Coast Service committed,
They're supposed to be asleep and
they have committed to investigate whether they might have some grant money.
That was my question, is if there's an incentive or grant type.
They're
money
willing
to
to
come
look
back.
at that, but there's,
Yeah.
there's been no feedback yet, so. But they're very positive in terms of helping us and working with us so far. We'll see what happens.
One other question is if this is kind of such a unique type of scenario, I'm curious as to why aren't there more towns
Yeah, it's a good question.
that aren't involved with this?
Well, a lot of, for cities that have already made an investment, I mean, that would be a significant expense for them to go out and redo all their streetlights. Think of Plano or even Frisco.
Well, the biggest problem, Joni, is that most cities have commercial.
And, well, but their standards do address commercial as well.
But a lot of the billboard, the signage, all that, it just becomes hard.
It's a big job.
It becomes harder. The bigger you are, the harder it is. We're lucky. We don't have any signs. We don't have any, muffler shops with big illuminated fluorescents.
Yeah, and frankly, that's a great advantage for us because we have such a very limited street infrastructure of lights and where we are potentially and what may be coming at some point in the future, not knowing when. I think we're in a real unique position where we can get there before a year or 2 years.
Well,
Things fall into place.
Are these some of the, examples of the lighting that they suggest? It's in the pamphlet.
Yeah.
This
Here
looks
particularly.
commercial
This looks like our lights today.
down here.
The glare.
So I think that the good news here is that we may reach a point where the council could decide we don't want to do it, let's say, in the city, over what's existing, but we are going to make all new development conform. That's a win. I'm okay with that. That's a win to make sure that the new stuff doesn't make it worse. So I think there's only upside here. I think there's only a positive that's going to happen from this. Whether we decide to roll it out and get the full certification, that's fine. If we choose to just use what we know to make all the developers comply, it's fine too. I think it's a win-win.
But at this point, basically, we're just investigating it and you're asking people to get involved. Is that about it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Shay.
Okay, good, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks to Ed. Ed's been really working hard, lots of meetings, and I appreciate what you're doing there, Ed. I know it's time consuming. Okay, next up, number 8, consideration of defense ordinance. Okay, so this is an issue. This one's kind of funny. I think, gosh, I was trying to remember. I think it was like maybe 3 years ago, or
2013.
I think it was 2013. That was. We were working on the zoning ordinance. We were in the attorney's office in Frisco. It was probably 11 o'clock at night. We were going through this 100 pages of zoning ordinance. And the question was about fences, because our fence ordinance was a dinosaur. It had been written in like the 90s or something. And so we were talking about fencing. We said, it's 2013. We said, let's not put it in zoning, because if we put it in zoning, then you can't change it. It's real hard to do in a zoning ordinance. We'll just make it separate. We'll slam that sucker out. It'll take us 2 weeks, and we'll get the fence ordinance done, no problem. Yeah, that was 2013. It's only taken 4 years to get back to the fence ordinance. So now we're back. So the issue with fences, so there were a couple issues. Besides, the ordinance had a lot of mistakes in it. It had a lot of old stuff from the 90s, stuff that didn't matter. So what I tried to do is I tried to go back and create the fence ordinance. I looked at a couple cities and basically just tried to create an ordinance that was very simple. Just keep it simple. And that was kind of the goal. So there were a couple of things that were different. So Clay, can you pull the ordinance up? Sure. So one of the things that the fence ordinance is pretty generic. Look, you can have a fence, it can only be 8 feet tall. You can't use razor wire, barbed wire. It's the usual stuff that everybody else has. What is a a permitted fence material. You got vinyl, wood, masonry, chain link, ornamental iron. You can't use barbed wire, razor wire, at all. That's boilerplate, every city pretty much across the board. That's what you have. When it came to then the fences, this is pretty much basic stuff. The only wrinkle that Lakewood Village had was way back when Tony LaCausey was on the city council. This is back in, I think, 2002. Tony lived on Stowe Lane, and he lived across the street from the lake. And Tony's concern was that he thought the new house going in, they were going to put up a masonry wall along the street. They were going to put up a wall, because on the other side of the street, where Carl lives, they have a fence running all the way up to the street that's gated. So Tony was afraid that they were going to put a masonry fence, a masonry wall, and he couldn't see the lake. So he wasn't concerned about the house that's 300 feet down the driveway, down on the water. He was concerned about up the street. He didn't want to see solid fences up at the street so you couldn't see the lake. That was his concern. So they wrote that in the ordinance. They said you cannot have a solid fence if you live on the lake. The problem was then, that meant you couldn't have a solid fence anywhere. Down the property lines, on the sides. So the problem became the sides, not the front. Okay? Because you can't put a tall fence in the front yard anywhere. So the problem we had was, if you're on the waterfront, you can't have a solid fence in the floodplain. The Corps won't let you. Because
It'll wash out when the flood comes.
floods, that's right. So that's why everybody that lives on the water, you gotta have a wrought iron fence. So Paul lives on the water. Even if he wanted to put up a stockade fence, you can't. You can't put up a stockade fence if you live. So now, you can't do that in the floodplain. You can't have a solid fence in the floodplain. Now, what about though up at your house? That's the question. Is that, what can you do right next to your house?
Right, everybody else can do it, but we can't.
But you can't. So
Right.
suppose, like, Murdad, I know Murdad did Murdad want to speak?
Yes.
Yes, and he's provided some pictures.
Okay. So the question that came up was a question about, okay, look, if I've got a pool right next to it, why can't I, why can't I get a little bit of privacy here? I'm not going to wall you off from the lake. I'm not going to say you can't see the sailboats. No, because you can't go into the floodplain with a solid fence. You can't do that. So the question becomes, and this is a question, should you be allowed to have some privacy if you have an outdoor kitchen or a pool right next to your house? Not 200 feet from your house, not way down there, not on the edge of the lake, but right next to your house. So what I did was, I wrote in here that on the side yard, can you scroll down? Okay, waterfront property. So you can't build a floodplain, you get a permit from the Corps, that's standard. Solid fences aren't allowed. So I put this in there for discussion. There's a privacy screen. What I did was, I went and looked at several houses, and I measured. If you go to the corner of their house, to the side of the corner of that house, and drew a line, what would it take for you to cover up the edge of their pool or their outdoor kitchen? How far would you extend? And what I got was 50 feet. 6 fence panels. I got 50 feet was, if you did 50 feet, that would pretty much, I didn't go to every single one. I looked along Cary Lane, and I looked at some of the ones on Stone. If you did 50 feet, starting from the edge of the house, that would pretty much give everybody a reasonable amount of privacy. Not necessarily covering up everything, but you could then have your outdoor kitchen or whatever. I made that number up. That number's there for discussion only. It's not science, it's me measuring with the measuring device. Actually, Linda measuring with the measuring device and me pointing. Okay? But it's looking at maps and trying to say.
Qualified to run the tape measure, that's where.
Why don't you go to the 537 line to the front of your quarter in the front of the yard? It's our property, we pay taxes on that. I bought all the way back to, that's my view of the lake, not my neighbor's, it's mine. I pay for it. Why, and I've always asked this, and I tried to get changed when I was there. Couldn't do it, and I don't understand. Why, it's my property, why I can't put a privacy fence up on my place. So, you know, in my backyard, or beside my side yard. I mean, wherever I
It's a
want
side
to put
yard.
it.
Yeah, we're talking about the side yard.
Why I can't do that? And then I talked to Mr. Cosio.
Tony? Yeah, Tony, yeah.
He go on and he said, well, Paul, he said, it's just like people driving down the street, they want to look through there and see the lake. And I told him, I said, tell somebody to go buy a boat. You know, I pay for this property, I pay the taxes on this, and it's damn business what I built here, but I couldn't put my fence up, and that's how I ended up with a wrought iron fence.
That's right.
It's just not right. As simple as that. I mean, you pay, just like you pay for your view, you pay the taxes on it, not your neighbor, not the guy driving down the street, the guy on the bicycle, you pay for it. And they should be able to put a privacy fence up if they want to. And that's my 2 bits on it.
Okay.
And I think anybody that lives on the water, you know, even if you have a party or anything, you know, you're out there. I mean, and it's just like the Chris, what's his name, Matthews?
Yep.
Who?
Okay. Well, let's,
Woo!
Shane.
And he come up there, man, he give me the blues, boy.
okay.
Because he didn't have privacy fence, he couldn't have privacy fence.
All right.
It does cause problems.
Okay, I appreciate it. Shane, you
I'll
have
make
a
these
question?
really quick. First of all, I would suggest taking out that if you have a pool or an outdoor kitchen, because that's terribly limiting. Just because you have a pool or a kitchen doesn't mean you want less privacy than somebody who does. So I would just get rid of that. I think it seems kind of ridiculous.
Okay.
But I do agree that, yes, it's your property and you should be able to build a fence, but I pay the same taxes and I'm not on the water, but I have a view. I want to keep that view. So I do understand that we want some privacy, but let's also limit that so that we all can still enjoy this view. We all moved here either to be on the water or have a view of it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the issue is an interesting one to me because the original intent was from the street. So the intent was from the street, and what got implemented was on the sides.
Yeah.
It was back, so I am okay with, when you stand at the street, you know, that it's way down, whatever.
You can't see back there
You know,
anyway.
you can't see behind the house, so I don't have a problem. Like I said, it's a disconnect, and
There are
I'm,
houses you can see from the street. You can see the lake.
oh, yeah, no, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you put it on the side, you're gonna have like tunnel vision only. What kind of view is that if you're just looking at tunnel vision?
Well, you can't run it, no, you can't run it down
All the way.
all the way to the lake, you're
So
in
you
the
were talking
flood.
about the sides earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, why does it
sides.
say the side yard, not the backyard? Because it does say that they can build this fence on the side yard.
it's only the side, yeah, because you can't put a solid fence on the back.
Oh, you
The
mean
flood
okay, so not the side yard, you're talking about fences on the side of the backyard.
Yes, the
Okay.
side of the back, so you're sitting on, you go out your back door, you swim in your pool. Are you looking left and seeing your neighbor? Or are you looking left at privacy? What some people have done, some people put up trees, some people have, they've beaten around the bush. And so I think it's time, since the fence ordinance had to be fixed anyway, it was way out of date and everything was wrong in it, that it's a discussion we ought to have. And if the
But I
council,
think the people everywhere else can put up a stockade fence, I don't know why we can't.
I don't think it's uncommon to have a fence ordinance that limits those kind of fences. You see it in a lot of communities all over the country. One of the attractions of this community is the openness as you drive through. So it's really a question to me, do you want to close that off and take that away? Because I think some of that will go away.
Yeah,
It's just
I think
like golf
my-
course communities. If
For
you
my
back
2
up to
cents
golf course,
worth,
you have to have an open.
I don't
Yeah,
like
you don't lose that
solid
openness.
things in the front.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, here's my house, here's my side setbacks, all those side yards. I don't want to see anything solid over there. Now, we're struggling with that now because we have screening requirements for air conditioners and that stuff on new houses. But I don't want to see a solid wall all the way across the lot, from, as you looked at it straight on. The sides, that's a question of privacy versus the view on the side. And that's the debate these guys have to have. I mean, that's,
Can I make a suggestion? This was just written, all right, it affects a lot of people. Do you think we could put it out in the public, let the people digest it for 30 or 60 days, have a public hearing, flush it out, and then vote on it, as opposed to, it's up there to vote today. And, you know, we've seen it for exactly 5 days, and fortunately, we have people here today, but a lot of times there isn't. So maybe we could just let the town people take a look at this ordinance and get it out there?
Well, I think what,
Yeah, a public hearing.
I'm not saying we have to take action on
It's
it,
just-
but,
Yeah, just because it's consideration.
This is a
doesn't mean we're gonna
discussion.
vote on it.
well, I would like to have Murdad. Murdad asked to speak to the council. Murdad, if you,
Yes.
do you,
Good evening.
When
My
did
name
you-
is Mirdad. This is my wife Heidi. We live at 704 Skull Lane. Thank you for your time, the opportunity to hear our case. So this is a picture of our house on the left and the neighbor to the north of us on the right.
So
And as
you're
you-
here.
Right, we're right there on the left. And that house on the north side of us is turned and rotated such that their outdoor living area is directly on top of our outdoor kitchen. And if you look at other houses, there's a lot more distance between the houses, but somehow these two houses are built very close to each other. The next photo is the same angle, but a little bit closer shot. And there are existing mature pine trees that run about 55 feet along that fence between the two houses. And as beautiful as they are, unfortunately they don't do anything in terms of eliminating the noise that's coming from our neighbors to our side. In the last and the third picture is a bird's eye view of the two houses. Our house is on the right and our neighbors on the left. And that's a proposed wall, either a brick wall, masonry wall, or a wood fence that we're hoping to put along these mature pine trees. This wall will not be visible from the street. It's not going to block anybody's view because it's running along those trees. Our neighbor moved in July of this year, and they like to entertain every weekends. And even when we're inside of our house with the windows closed and doors shut, we can hear their music and the noise come across. So we usually move to a different part of our house, go upstairs, or we move to the other side. And we really are unable to enjoy our backyard on the weekends while they're having their parties. So I'm here tonight to, a consideration of either a partial wall, a brick wall, or a fence that along that mature pine trees to basically help us reduce some of the noise.
Sort of history revisited. Same two houses, the Taylor-made house was the builder that built that house. And, the lady wanted privacy around her pool.